time to speak. You have 4 minutes and 42 seconds remaining.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. There's a lot to unpack there as well. This is a developer bill. This is a developer bill to allow developers to come in and gently infill by tapping in to existing infrastructure with absolutely no regard for what is going to happen from there. Now, if you want to deal with the cost of affordability of homes, let's deal with the regulation. We know that's going to be 30% and up of the cost of the home. The cost of the home is going to, that is going to drive up the cost of rent, and that's going to drive up the cost of rent across the board. Those regulations have been added in recent years. You roll those back, you decrease the cost of a home by 30%. And then you get an actual affordability, and you can do that. What we shouldn't do in this room is go and say, well, we're going to ignore the problems that were created by this room, because I guarantee you, anytime you have the people who created the problem solve the problem, you get a bigger problem. This is a bigger problem because what it does is it steps in and it violates the property rights of everybody surrounding. Yes, it does allow somebody to circumvent it does allow certain individual property owners, the first ones in, to divide their property, capitalize on that, sell for a profit, devalue all the properties beside them, and then you leave them with the only option of selling their property and then cramming more houses in. Now, I know for the 15-minute cities that this is ultimately the goal, but it is a violation of individual property rights that the individuals entered into with the state. They said, yes, we will abide by your police state actions, and we will live in these zones, and we expect that this will protect our property values, and then we have an actual investment. Now what the state is doing is coming in and saying, we know better. SimCity 4.0 told us, and we're going to override that. And we are going to chop your property up, and we're talking about 1,200. We're talking about one, the way it would read is 800 square feet. I mean, you look at cutting your setback from 40 feet to 30 feet. You basically have room for a shed. That's not a starting home, that's a shed. Do what you can, which is here. Don't assume that everything you've done here is good. What you need to do is undo the damage that has been done here, and then the property values will come, then the price of housing will come down, then people will be able to afford a home. He touched on it. Why do you build a McMansion? Because you have to recoup your fixed cost. Harvard has a building that's 5 by 5 or something like that. It's the most expensive building on the entire Harvard yard. And it's expensive because it's 5 by 5. And the most expensive building you could build would be a 1 by 1. And so you have to recoup all of those costs. And so this room has put it in place where you have to build a McMansion and then criticizes for building a McMansion. That's not going to change. What you're going to create, because you have a certain level of fixed costs when you talk to builders that are doing single properties that are having to deal with these asbestos. One just got tapped for $40,000 for having a piece of asbestos on the yard, had a scrape. They came CDPHE and scraped 3 inches of topsoil off half the yard.
Representative DeGraff, you have 55 seconds remaining.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. You don't have starter homes because of what this room has done. This room is responsible for the housing crisis. This will not solve it. This is going to just simply devalue the properties across the state of Colorado. It sends a signal that Colorado can't be trusted. It can't. And it's not going to solve the crisis, which is doubtful that it exists because we don't have a population that's growing and the housing rate has gone up. So this is about an agenda that's far more than what we're talking about here. It's not dealing with that at all. This is about corporatizing housing, and this is about violating individual property rights.